Alrighty then, we're rolling. So, Andre, what page are you on now?
I think 395.
Right,
So, yeah, 395 is the page where I'm on right now.
right.
And
And what chapter does that constitute?
they constitute the chapter number. mm, Chapter 18.
Right.
There's a real interesting part here where I have underlined, uh,
Okay.
which is on page 356.
Right.
And the Buddhist tenet of letting go is a potent tool which will benefit us in immeasurable ways. If we can let go of any negative energy, we will be well on our way to creating heaven between our ears and within our hearts. Yeah, letting go. Yeah, that is something I myself have had as a mantra in certain period. Let go, move on. Let go, move on, like that.
Yeah.
And certain things take extra effort to let go of, and it could also be that it's individual as well. Some people might hold on to things a bit harder and so on, based on what it is, if it's feelings or if it's a person and so on, or if it's just a thing that happens, some accident or some irritating thing, just letting go of it, but also be able to let go of the stuff that are positive, like if there's an uh, because you know that every moment will eventually pass. So this too shall pass,
Yeah.
because that also gives one some gratitude towards that present moment as well, to know that this here is ephemeral, so to speak, and
Yes.
it's always changing.
And it's precious. And
Yeah.
so to be now, to be present, and to be in a level of acceptance where you just let it go. It's kind of like if you're having a good time with friends or family or lovers, whatever. Um, and well, you know it's not going to last. And so just be present and, absorb everything in the moment. And what me and my, the mother of my daughter, we used to do it with each other, because we're young lovers. But then when we had our daughter, we would absolutely be present with her all the time. And we would always be saying, look at her, look how she does this and look how she does that. Being really, really present, knowing that every single day she's growing up, she's growing up, she's growing up. And then when she became, about 5 years old, it's the most beautiful time of a child. I think lots of parents would agree, between 3 and 5 maybe. And then when they start to get like 11, 12, it's kind of like, oh no, we're losing our little girl or our little boy because they're coming into the terrible teens. And then, they change. And yeah, we've got to hang on, at that moment in time, or be present. But you see, you want it to last forever, but
Yeah.
it doesn't, and it becomes painful if you don't let it go.
Yeah.
And so
but
that's
but,
why
but
it's really important to absolutely be present and to spend as much time as you can with children. You see, these days, they're banging their children into creches as young as 1 year old. because
Yeah.
they're forced out into the labour market. So both parents are working. They drop the kids off, they pick the kid up, they feed it, put it to bed, and before you know it, the kid's 16, and you don't know it. You don't know the kid. You've never spent any time.
Yeah, in Sweden they have even come up with rules like when the child turn 4, you must have them into the daycare care a certain amount of time, and
Yep.
that's just because they want to school your children and
Yep.
in yeah, you know all the crazy stuff they
Yep,
launch.
they want to start the hypnosis on them. They
Yeah,
want to start the social conditioning and all that sort of thing. And in lots of ways, of course, it is good, because we need a certain level of social conditioning. Otherwise, we're on the outside, and people think we're odd, and then they reject us, and all this sort of thing.
yeah,
Um,
but they, in Sweden they teach girls like they are not girls and they are not boys. So it's homosexual things and
yeah,
perverts
yeah,
come
yeah.
there and
Well,
so
I
on.
mean, it's all gone too far
Yeah,
these days. But yeah, when we look at life, there's pros and cons for everything. And
yeah,
this is why I try to speak from as many angles as I can. I don't, you see, people, when they come onto my channel, they want to know what I believe. I don't believe
yeah,
anything. I believe nothing. And they get really confused trying to work me out because they just think that everybody should have a belief. And they're looking for beliefs and they're looking for people who believe what they believe. Yeah, that's right, subscribe, thumbs up. And, they're always
yeah,
looking to have their biases or beliefs reiterated. And I don't do
yeah,
that. I strip them 100% of whatever they think they had in me, and they find that destabilizing and shocking, and that's why I don't have a lot of followers, because people, they're not looking for that. They're not grown enough for that, because people on my channel really do need to be letting go of shit. They need to be absolutely open-minded. They can't have biases or beliefs or anything like that. They've just got to be willing to consider and to learn and to open their minds up to different things.
yeah,
And so, this is why, I have a go at Christians a lot. The reason why I have go at Christians is because if someone is an atheist, Andre,
yeah,
then they have no belief. And so they,
no,
they, they, they don't build themselves up into some highly moral person,
yeah,
because they don't come under the yoke of a god, right? So they don't have to do all this shit, and so they're just human beings, and they go, yeah, we're failed human beings. We've got our idiosyncrasies and this, that, and the other. But Christians, they maintain that they're virtuous, and they do all the things that God and Jesus are supposed to have told them to do, but they fucking don't. And
yeah,
they are the ones on my channel which spit the most venom. They're always the ones I end up blocking. I block them every week.
mm,
Because Christians come onto the channel, and of course, they're all upset with what I'm saying, and then they're all like this. Starts off a little bit, tame, but then it always ends up spitting venom, and they start with ad hominem. You're egotistical. You're a psychopath. You're this and you're that. Hang on, what happened to love thy neighbor? What happened to turn the other cheek? What happened to a level of acceptance and all this sort of stuff? They just don't do it. They don't live up to their fucking bullshit. So I want to shatter every single one of their fake misconceptions.
yeah, yeah. They have this proselytizing mindset where they always try to get over people to their side, and when they see it doesn't work with you, then they get angry and so on.
Exactly.
Uh, and but there's another facet with atheism as well. It's kind of a person that has bought into atheism, so to speak. That also becomes a religion in and of itself, because then they have certain belief systems, like yeah, there is no God. We don't believe that, or they might be a little bit on the agnostic side, saying we cannot know that. Maybe you
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
and so
I
on.
think to be on the agnostic side is the best, and
Mm,
I suppose that's where I am really, but I do lend myself to feeling as if there is something uh, which has created this thing. Um, we can look into so much mythology, and all mythology tells us that there's been a creator of whatever sort. And my personal experience has shown me, has given me visceral experience that there is something that's absolutely beautiful and loving when we get outside of the ego. When we get outside into the ego, Andre, we enter into a whole different realm, and it literally is beautiful and nurturing and all loving, and it doesn't need to be forgiving because there's no transgressions. You can't make any transgressions. That's the thing. Well, you take a serious dose of DMT, and that will just tell you that the world is absolutely perfect. There is nothing that anybody could ever do to change the level of perfection. And so, what I've seriously pondered having those experiences is, well, if the world is perfect, then everything that we do effectively is meaningless.
mm,
Whether it's loving good deeds or whether it's terrible things, it has to be meaningless. In that, and I look further. I go, well, how can the world be meaningless when we consider it's so meaningful and so real? Well, because it's an illusion. Well, how can it be an illusion? Well, like a dream is an illusion. Ah, okay, it makes sense then, because when I'm dreaming in bed at night and I'm thinking about all these things, good and evil, it all means so very much to me. But when I wake up, Andre, it doesn't mean anything. And I
mm,
think that's why this thing is. I think it's a dream in the mind of God, like we have a dream in our minds of God. When we're dreaming about fucking and fighting and all different sorts of things happening, but then we wake up into another reality. And that's what I believe.
mm.
So, what do you think about that on those levels? Because when you have powerful experiences and you try to reason and rationalize those powerful experiences, for instance, if somebody had, like, I've had, supposedly Jesus speaking to me when I don't believe in Jesus, as the New Testament, I can have an allegiance with Jesus from the book of Thomas, just a man, saying that the kingdom of God is within you and without you. Yeah, because I've experienced that. I see it all around me in the natural world, and I feel it within me. And so, the Jesus of the book of Thomas is perfectly reasonable and rational. No miracles involved. No rising from the dead, not the Son of God, because it all gets into a dichotomous can of heinous worms. Um, but you see, if we look into ourselves, Andre, for the answers, we can find them. But what we do is, when we're looking for the answers in other people's literature, then that perverts our wholeness. And it instills all different sorts of other people's beliefs and
Yeah,
dogmas.
one must cut it down to one's own experience, so to speak.
Yeah,
Um, that is kind of what I think about it. Um, Many things are speculations, and all things might just be speculations as well. Even if we say that something is evident in a certain way, it's just how deep we go into a certain aspect until the rug is slipped out
exactly.
from
Yeah,
beneath, so to
yeah.
speak.
So if we keep following things back, if we keep following it back, following it back, following it back, well, we always end up in the abyss. We always
Yeah.
end up in the nothingness, where we We cannot find any semblance of truth at all.
Yeah.
And then it always comes back to the Descartes thing. Well, I think, therefore I am. I must be something, thoughts, something is thinking. And that's it, consciousness. The only thing that we can't discount is consciousness. And why should consciousness have any horse in any race? Why should consciousness be this way or be that way? It isn't. It's everything. Every possible thing any living conscious creature can think, that's what consciousness is.
Hmm.
And there's no labels of right or wrong or morals upon it.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's no morals in the animal world, is there? Millions, trillions of animals. There's no morals there. It just is.
Yeah, it's the might is right, so to speak, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I still try to get my head around certain things, because I mean, if there's just nothingness, then the morals is just something to hold on to as well.
Yeah.
So it's like Dostoevsky said, if God is dead, then everything is permitted.
Yes.
In a way, that is how it is.
Well, you see, everything is permitted
Yeah,
because there's no punishment. But you don't need God to have punishment. Because before there was the notion of God, we had guilt. We knew right from wrong. We knew that if we murdered our best friend's wife or brother, then the chances are that best friend wasn't going to be our best friend anymore and
yeah,
might want to murder us. So we knew all that stuff before there was a God. So there's big debates all the time, and people entertain them, like Douglas Murray and Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. And I'm like, look, people, you've got to see beyond that. Honest to goodness, these people are world-renowned intellectuals, and they are the
mm,
highest of the high on the circuit. And yet, I think lots of things I think piss all over them because I think you look. Just go back, thousands of years before these silly notions of any right or wrong that came into like society. We needed to have a society before people started saying that's wrong and that's right. Why? Well, because it's not conducive to our society. But if there isn't a society, then there is no right or wrong per se, because there's nobody that necessarily is going to be punishing you. For instance, look, if you're a nomad, Andre, and you drift around and you come upon little clans here and there, and then you commit whatever atrocities in that clan, and then you run away, well, you can keep doing that forever unless someone kills you.
yeah,
And if you don't feel guilty about it, then that's the level of your consciousness. But when we get more conscious, then that's when the guilt comes about. So that's when God manifests, isn't it?
yeah,
In a higher state of consciousness. Apes don't have that consciousness. No other animal has that level of consciousness, save for human beings. And so then we have to, go and invent something outside of ourselves. No, no, no. Consciousness is in here. Consciousness is all around there. And so that's where it derives from. So why do we need to project then some, um, semblance of ourselves into the clouds?
mm,
I don't think we need to do that. And so these idiots always talking about that we can't have virtue without God. Well, just go back in history. Just go back. Just keep going back until there wasn't any notion of God. Try to put your mindset into a notion or a place where there was no God. And this would be, pretty well, barbaric societies, very simple beings, which never had this level level of consciousness, because it's the conscience that prevents us from doing that. And we've all got this head. Now, it's one of the things that, Socrates and Plato, those people used to say, look, the reason why I don't do bad things is because I have a daemon within me which asks me, do I really want to do that? Because if you do that, then the chances are people are not going to like it. And if they're not going to like it, they might want to do shit to you. So this daemon, of course, is the conscience. This is just another word for conscience. In the old days, they used to know that they had spirits with them, Andre.
Yeah.
They knew that they had multiple daemons within them. But
Yeah.
now that's all been washed away and tucked under the rug. And then they call it the conscience. And it's the only agency. It's not conscience, it's spirits.
Yeah. But there is an other aspect. There might be barbaric societies and so on, but they have also had a form of a spirituality and gods within those societies and so on.
Well, I don't know. You see, look, there's one book. There's a guy called Julius Haynes, and he wrote The Bicameral Mind. Bicameral mind means the split mind. And in that book, he's speaking about how consciousness came about. And he was speculating that in the beginning, how it must have happened is that we started to hear voices in our heads. We started to have an internal monologue at least. And because we had this voice in our head, we probably thought that it was God. Right? Because
Yeah, then we
we
were God. Absolutely. Yeah.
yes, then we must have been God, you see. And so when we first realized, you see, even today, Andre, people don't have an internal monologue. So, this bicameral mind hypothesis falls down when we realize that the vast majority of people haven't um, uh, been on this evolutionary ride because they still don't have an internal monologue. So they
Yeah.
don't have this God speaking to them. So how do they have a conscience? Well, they listen to what society tells them
Yeah.
and they take that on board as a program because they
Yeah.
don't have. You see, this is why, I swear, this is
Society
why.
becomes their superego.
Yeah, and you see, people they don't talk about this in these, lectures where they're getting paid £100,000 a piece. They don't talk about this. Is that if people do not have internal monologues, then where are they getting their information from? And these are the sort of people which would obviously say, "Well, if we don't have a God, how do we know what's right and wrong?" You see, but look, on the face of it, Andre. That sounds an absolute preposterous notion when you have at least an internal monologue, but people would have internal dialogues. Now, I have an internal dialogue, and I can say,
Yeah.
fuck God, oh, love God. I can say there is a God, I can say there's not a God. I can actually have a conversation with myself, a debate with myself, the pros and cons for being a God. What
Yeah.
I know, what I feel, what I've experienced, my experience in this life, I can do that. But people without that facility, they can't do that. They have to rely on other people telling them and giving them options. And then the strongest one will supersede. And
Yeah.
this happens because when you get people listening to debates, one person will speak and they'll go, oh, yes, I think that person's right. And then the other person will speak, and then instantly they are persuaded by the other person. And then they go, oh, that person's right too. And then it's kind of like, oh, they're both right because they don't have any personal cognitive facility to be able to tell them what is right in their own selves.
Yeah.
So things are very, very complicated. And, there's very, very few people speaking about these things today. And so what I want to hear, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, and Richard Dawkins, and all these other people speaking about, I want to hear them speaking about these things. I want to hear them asking the questions. Where are these people getting the information from? If they can't, if they don't have an internal voice, how the fuck do they get through their lives?
Yeah.
Well, you look around at society, you have governments that tell them what to do. And then when the government tell them that there's something called COVID and they absolutely believe it, and they have never woken up to this day, well, it's evident, it's self-evident they don't have the internal spirit mechanism going on.
Yeah. And that has they are either born that way or they are programmed that way from generation to generation. Either one of them. But um, like with religion, they have had a lot of tortures and all kind of stuff to affect the human conscious into a certain conformism to a certain religion and so on, and that has been stored in our genetics and so on. Just take the Middle Ages and so on, the Dark Ages and all that kind of stuff is still within the
Yeah,
human DNA.
it is clinging to the DNA for sure.
Yeah,
And so, there's so many things that, uh, we do pass on seemingly. Um, you see, again, we enter into a massive arena of discussion because we start then having to ask, well, is this information actually in the Akasha? And we are just tapping in to the most powerful and prominent vibration in the Akasha. As
yeah,
far as the survival mechanism takes place, well, the morphic resonance thing, which is this intelligence again in the ether, which we
yeah,
tap into, which all animals tap into, which ant colonies tap into, and I swear human beings tap into as well. And
yeah,
so, what's happening is the powers that be now are superseding that facility of us tapping into the Akasha and to the morphic resonance. They now have poisoned that arena with Wi-Fi, and they are getting us zoned in on gadgets to supersede all that because they don't want us tapping into that natural stuff. They want to us to tap into their controlling mechanism. So they are overriding those natural programs.
yeah,
And so in the early days of humanity, we would have some sort of a feeling of godliness because the ego would have been very small. Undeveloped, and so without the ego, we naturally have a connection to all things in a loving sort of way, in a oneness way. You
yeah,
see, and that's when we nurtured the sun or worshiped the sun and the moon and all this stuff that the ancients did because they
yeah,
thought they were living entities. But what's
yeah,
happening now is, Andre, even some people now are starting to say that they are living entities. Rupert
yeah,
Sheldrake, he writes a book about the sun is conscious.
yeah. I could imagine. Yeah, I think it's easy to just look at the sun and think, yeah, it's symbolic, but there's something more to it. Yeah,
Yes. This book I'm reading about the Theosophical Society. I mean, it's
yeah,
speaking about all these ancient peoples that used to think very, very differently about the world, and bestowing consciousness onto all the planets. That's why we've got this Roman mythology, because
yeah,
all of these planets, they're all gods. Mercury and Venus and all, they're all gods. And
yeah,
so to them, they were living entities, and they
yeah,
had jurisdiction and influence over us.
yes,
And so, yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff. It's so deep. It's so fascinating, and it's so multifaceted. And so, all the most human beings can do in their limited intellect is just to cling on to something to give them a footing in this life. Otherwise, they are floating around the cosmos, terrified because they don't have a home, or they don't have a belief system. They need a belief system to bring them back down onto earth. They need a belief system, Andre, to enable them to consider that they are an actual physical entity. Because if you don't have a belief system, then you know that there's no physicality here at all. And all this shit that the human beings does, it's just a fantasy. It's just a dream. And there is no right and wrong. There's no morals, nothing. And nothing actually means anything, really, in real terms. And we can discern that nothing means anything, because all we need to do is just take the human being out of a certain place, put it into another place, and see what means anything. For instance, if 10 of us were taken out of our societies and we were put on to a very, very secluded island with limited resources, we would see that we didn't believe in any fucking thing from this society. All that happened is that we would become very, very self-centered and highly intent on our own survival. Sure, initially we'd go, okay, well, let's all group together. You do this and you do that, and I'll be the fisherman and you'll be the basket weaver. And we do all this in our silly, pathetic, idealism sort of way. But when we start to get hungry and then someone is grabbing more meat on the tiny little morsel that we've got, then another person's going to pick up a fucking log and smash them in the fucking head. Because if they're trying to eat all the food and take your life away from you, well, you're going to take their life. And that's how it is. And that's how I've been speaking in my recent videos. And I've been speaking like this, Andre, for a long, long time. People don't like to hear it. They're
Yeah.
too small-minded to even get their heads around it. But what I do is, on my viewers, I'm testing everybody. And I'm saying, hey, you fuckers that think you're devout, loving Christians, I'm going to find out. Let's find out. Let's find out together. Let's you and I find out who's fucking right or who's wrong here. I think you're wrong. I think you're just as despicable as any other fucking human being, because evil runs through the heart of us all. I'm willing to say potentially it runs through mine, and I could very easily see how I would be acting in an evil way, because on a desert island I wouldn't have any qualms about protecting myself. I wouldn't be dying for somebody else, being a greedy motherfucker, all this sort of thing. I'd be a very fair person, but as soon as anybody broke that fairness and showed
Yeah.
their despicable side, then they'd suffer my wrath.
Yeah.
But I don't feel as if I would be this one that's going to be the greedy one, that's going to be the sneaky one,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I do have a deep level of integrity, but, how would I know unless that's really tested? Probably I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So therefore, we can see how we all slip into this. Oh, I wouldn't do that, because I've just said to you that I think I have a high level of integrity, which wouldn't enable me to do it first. But
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
we we don't know until we are
We
fully
don't know
tested
until we
on it.
test it. But what we
Yeah.
do know is that when people who have thought like we have are put to the test, they mostly all fail.
Yeah.
Stanford prison experiment, that electric shock experiment,
Yeah,
where people were
exactly.
told to press the button and give a person an electric shock if they got the question wrong.
Yeah, they did many of those experiment milligrams, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
Stanley Milgram. That's right.
Yeah.
I said it was maybe Skinner, but no, it wasn't Skinner. It was Stanley
Yeah.
Milgram. That's right.
Yeah, Skinner did something else with the rats and stuff. Yeah,
And the
and the
pigeons.
baby.
He was an operant psychologist. He would get pigeons tapping for the cocaine and rats
Ah,
tapping for the
okay.
cocaine. You know.
Yeah, Skinner boxes, something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
Skinner boxes. That's right.
Yeah, but that was like also habituation and how you could program the mind of a baby as well. I
Yeah, yeah. That
think.
was that. That was Pavlov.
Yeah, the dogs.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the babies ringing the bell, scaring the baby.
yeah,
So if they showed him a cuddly toy, and the baby would be fine with a cuddly toy, but then what they started to do was ring a loud bell behind the baby's head when they're showing the cuddly toy. Then the baby became afraid of the cuddly toy because it knew it was related to the loud alarming bell behind its head. That's
yes,
Pavlov conditioning.
yeah.
And the salivation of the dog, when you present food to a dog, they start to salivate.
Yeah.
Well, you can do the same thing. You can ring a bell before you give them food, and they'll start salivating at the sound of a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can see how very, very easily the human mind is conditioned.
Those parts are really important for getting one's head around human psychology as well, you know.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they are the first thing you kind of learn in many psychology books and so on.
Yeah.
And it's fundamental to know those, I think, in a way.
Yes, it is. But you see, when people don't know them,
Yeah.
they have no awareness, and so if they don't have any awareness, it doesn't come into their paradigm of consciousness, and so they think they're exempt because of their ignorance. You see, it's their
Yeah.
ignorance that gives them the exemption. And what I'm saying to Christians is that they're all very, very ignorant. Of course, they're ignorant to believe that Jesus is our Lord and he walked on water and he rose from the fucking dead and all this sort of stuff. Not only are they ignorant on that front, but they're ignorant because they can't see the evil or don't want to admit the evil in the Old Testament. Is evil absolutely through and through. Um, uh, and so what they do in their ignorance then, they take on board the virtues of Jesus. They take ownership of these virtues. How dare they? How dare they when the Bible tells them they are born fucking sinners and they will be a sinner till they die and their only redemption is if they grovel at the feet of Jesus and then in the afterlife they'll be saved. Not in this fucking life.
Hmm.
And so these muppets that think they're all virtuous and kind, I just want to bring them to task. I just enjoy doing that. And some people say, "Oh, why do you let yourself down?" I'm not letting myself down. You fuckers are letting yourself down by your pig ignorance, your stupidity, and your frailty that you don't want to address and confront your own shadow, your own selves, because
Yeah.
you're all capable of it. Listen to Milgram, listen to fucking Pavlov, listen to Skinner, listen to Freud. Do a bit of self-discovery for God's sakes, you
Yeah.
imbeciles. Well, that was 40 minutes almost on just the one line.
Yeah.
And we could continue for 2 hours on
Yeah.
one line. And so,
Yeah.
Andre, what I want to say in this video, because it was on my mind this morning, about people who haven't bought my book. People who haven't bought my book, who watch my videos and have watched me for years, right?
Yeah.
I want to bring them to task because I think they are. There's some they're on some magnitude of the disgusting, because it's
Yeah.
small money. They could just buy the Kindle, which is $10. It's like £7. Or if you're in some of these European countries where the standard of living is higher, they could buy it in euro, and literally it's about £7. So it's nothing, and yet they haven't done it. And I know lots of my viewers who have been around for years. I know they haven't bought it. I want to
Yeah.
ask them, why the fuck not? What is wrong with you people? You write me emails and you write me comments, and you pretend you're in my gang, and you're in allegiance with me, and yet you haven't supported the channel for a pittance of money. And then some people will go, because some people, Andre, they are in this psychological trap of self-induced poverty. Oh, I'm on benefit. Oh, I've only got a small job, and I'm poor. And I'd say to them, well, look, you watch my videos, every day, some of you, or at least every week. So you obviously like my content. I've took the time and the effort to write this book. I'm all speaking about it, and I'm encouraging you that it would be within your best interest to read this fucking book. And so here's an idea: put £1 or €1 in a fucking jar every week, and then after
Yeah.
20 weeks you can buy the paperback. How's about that for a plan, Muppets? And
Yeah.
if people still don't want to do it, you're always calling us Muppets. I'm not going to buy. Well, fuck off and die then. because there's something psychologically wrong in your mind. Because even though you hate how I'm speaking to you, you're still watching my fucking videos. So
Yeah.
I would say that you're either deeply under my hypnosis, or you've got a psychological issue of needing to be accepted. You just keep coming back, hoping one day that I'm going to be accepting you, like these Christians do. Oh, please forgive and don't let yourself down. No, go fuck off and die. How many copies of my book have you bought? So
Yeah.
you can give these books to people as a charity, people who you love. You listen to my videos, you think there's value. So, I'm going to buy that book and I'm going to give it to my brother, to my dad, or to my son. Yeah, how many of them have done that? Not one. Not one motherfucker. So I'm calling everyone to task. And what I'm saying can very, very with great difficulty be refuted. And in actual fact, I'll put anyone to task that they couldn't refute my logic on these things.
Yeah, the first group you addressed, it's like they like comfort, they like stimulation, and they are not walking the path. You know, it's they like many people. They sit with their mobile phones. They just look, but there's no commitment to anything.
No commitment to nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
they don't have um, any will or desire to help anybody.
yeah.
And you say, look, I say to all my viewers, look, you don't have to like me. And to be frank, you all know I go out of my way to help you not to. Uh, because I only want the most reasonable and strongest and rational and intelligent viewers who won't be affected by the things I say, because they know that they are not that sort of person. So when I'm saying to these Christians, you're this and you're that, and I'm getting them to look at themselves, and in the end, they know what I'm saying is very true, and their hate comes out, and then they spit their venom, and it's kind of like, fire in the hole. They know I'm going to block them at some stage for what they're saying, and so they just give all this venom like that. Ah, ha, ha, fuck you, you're a retard, and all this sort of thing. Well, what have they done? They have just shone a shocking light upon all of what they are supposed to consider as their virtue. Every
Yeah.
single bit of what they consider as a
They
virtue.
don't see it themselves, but for the person that has an analytic eye, see it right away.
Yeah,
It's not that hard to see it.
yeah.
Their
So
shadow
that's
is
why I
right
do
there.
it. And every time I throw another one of these idiots in the snake pit, I'm just rubbing my hands together,
Yeah.
because there's just so many of them out there. And
Yeah.
so, if we've got viewers that are very part-time viewers and they just pop onto my channel now and again, okay, no problem. I'm speaking to people who are regular, who are very regular and have been around for years, because my channel obviously is very important to them on whatever
Yeah.
level, and so they need to realize that they need to bite the bullet, they need to swallow their fucking pride, and they need to go, well, he's right. Yeah, the amount of videos I've probably watched 1,000 videos, maybe even 4,000 videos if they've been around a long time. How many pennies is that per video? Is 0.000 fucking something. It's minute, and what
Yeah.
holds them back, Andre, from doing it? If they think I could never read that book, English isn't my first language, I'm too stupid, just to buy the fucking book, to feel that you have done the right thing.
Yeah.
You have given a little bit of something back, because that's all I've ever been saying on my channel. Just give something back,
Yeah.
and there you have it. So anyway,
Yeah.
you see, people will look, oh, you're always, banging on. Yes, I am banging on about it because my channel is about human psychology. That's why I'm always banging on about it. And, you all have the privilege of looking into my psychology, but don't ever forget that I'm looking into yours. And I look into yours by what you do, by what you say, by what you don't do, and what you don't say. So I'm looking into the psychology of everybody, and when I see, icons of regular people, I ask, who are these people? Have I ever known these people? They've been around a long fucking time, and yet they've never dared to show themselves. They've never dared to introduce themselves. What is it about these people? What frailties do they have? What fears do they have that they just want to keep hidden? They've obviously got some deep shadows in their closet.
Yeah.
Is it because, like, they know that if they start to reveal themselves more to me, I'm going to see more into their heart and into their minds, and they couldn't stand that, they couldn't bear that, that would terrify them? Yes, there's
Yes.
lots of things going on, people.
Yeah. Here's the next line.
Next line.
It's from page 100 and 356 to 357.
Wow.
Whenever we let negative thoughts and feelings go, we step up another rung on our ladder of ascension towards our desired perfection. Our lives will be happier. We will be vastly more confident because we will know the power of letting go. It is one of the most extraordinary weapons in our spiritual arsenal that we can deploy. We will feel so empowered in any situation because we know that we cannot be affected by demonic energies for longer than it takes for them to wash over us.
Yes, so just let me give you a few instantiations about that. Many people, you've all had these scenarios whereby you've been infatuated with somebody, a potential suitor, girlfriend, boyfriend. You maybe you've had a relationship with them and it's ended, or maybe you haven't had a relationship and you felt very, very strongly. These thoughts and emotions will consume you. In my younger days, I had this infatuation with this girl, and it lasted for 2 solid years where I thought about her every single day. We had a
Yeah,
little bit of a thing going, and then it ended. Um, and I just carried the weight of that for 2 years.
yeah,
It was the loss. It was a loss. It was something that I wanted.
yeah,
Of course, many relationships fail, and often one is going to feel like that when the other one isn't. And so
yeah,
I felt like this on this occasion, and I carried it for 2 years.
yeah.
And
Why this? Why that? And so on. Yeah. Try to
yeah,
figure
and
out.
and I hope I see her again, and all different sorts of stuff like that. Um, and then when you look back with retrospect, you go, "Wow, what was that? That was really powerful." At the time, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't have
Yeah,
gotten rid of that. That girl had some strings on my heart, or something like that. And it's kind of like, well, letting go. How would I've let go of that? I would have had to condition my mind with hypnosis and denial, just to try to blank her out of my mind and
yeah,
release her from my heart. I don't know how we can just let some things go, but of course, this is why the Buddhists, they don't get involved in anything like that, because they know
yeah,
it's very, very difficult. They don't get involved in love. They don't get involved in lust. They don't get involved in relationships. They keep very, very insular and protected.
yeah. It's one of the harder part to let go of. Just this love thing and so on. the longer you have been meeting the girl, the harder it is to let go of that certain person, is my experience. But it's interesting. One can also go in with the mindset of not holding on to that certain person to begin with. That would be one remedy towards it, I would think.
Yeah, you can try, whereby you,
Yeah,
you, you don't give and you don't receive very well. You see, it's a very cold way of doing it. And I suppose,
yeah,
I've done this many years of my life because that's why I always favoured pay girls,
mm,
because there was never any emotional attachment. Even though there very often did end up being an emotional attachment, but it wasn't the variety that's going to cause you pain, suffering, and jealousy and things like that, because you were with a pay girl and many other people were paying her for the same thing.
yeah,
Um, and so you can't have a problem with that. It's liberating in one sense, and it kind of like prevents you from having any long-term emotional attachments or
yes,
jealousy to this person, because that was never something you ever had to consider,
yes,
in a pay girl. And I like that, and I spent a good portion of my life with like that. I didn't like the devotional side of relationships, where in the beginning you fall in love and you've got these strong bonds, and then slowly you watch them all slip away, as you stop caring, as you see that they stop caring, how they stay out longer and they stop being honest with you, and all this sort of stuff, and
yeah,
it's painful. It's painful.
yeah. But I think Jordan Peterson has something to that, where he talks about the treating a relationship like a company.
Right.
You have the talk time once a week with the girl and so on. You have that maybe 1.5 hour each week where you go through the relationship and so on.
Right.
And I have a friend that does that with his girlfriend.
Yes.
Uh,
Well,
so
you
it
see,
seems to be a good way of dealing with it, because then you can look upon the details where you can get renewal and more passion into it all. Maybe even psychedelic will help you grow deeper together in a later stage in the
yeah,
relationships
if
and so
if
on.
you if your integrity is intact, but you
Yeah,
see, if your integrity isn't intact, Andre, and you started off with good intentions when you really loved each other, but then as time goes by, you start to have these conversations, and you no longer tell the truth. You no longer tell them what your heart is. You're not going to tell them that you've met this girl in the office. There's a new girl in the office. Oh my God. It was love at first sight when I blessed my eyes on her, but she's married. And now you think about her every day. And even when you're home, you're having sex with your wife or your girlfriend, you're thinking about her. And then when you go to work, you're rushing into work because you just want to see her, be near her, even though she's married and this sort of things. Now, this isn't a situation that I've encountered. But I can imagine it is with many people who work in offices and have these infatuations. How do
yeah,
you be open about this? You can't be open about it, because if you told that to your girlfriend or your husband, the relationship would almost be over in an instant, because they wouldn't be that understanding, because they'd be on guard from the very fucking get go. They'd be checking your underwear and your fucking collar, and all this sort of stuff.
yeah. I think a good way for a man is to like have a bunch of friends with integrity to talk about this kind of stuff. How do I manage it? Then go back to the girlfriend or wife to talk about certain stuff. So get further nearer and nearer to the truth, or something
Yeah.
like
So
that.
how many experiences have you had that actually you've done that?
None, I would
None.
say, but I have pushed girls away when I have had a girlfriend. I have pushed girls away, even girls that when in the past I could, if I was tired, I could be on a party fully sober and so on. And I'm tired, I go to bed while the other people are partying. Then
Right.
maybe a girl come and lay over you in bed or kissing your neck and so on. You just push her away, even if she's looking good. You just push her away. Or a girl just flying upon you and try to kiss you, you need to push her away because you have a girlfriend.
Right, because you have a girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, and, you doubtless you'll probably carry the weight of that, for the rest of your life. You'll be thinking, damn, I missed that opportunity.
yeah.
Um,
Men always think about the missed
yeah.
opportunity for sex,
And then,
and the
then
girls thinks about missed opportunity for a good relationship.
Yeah, and then we start to curse our own conscience because it's the conscience that doesn't allow you to do that. I remembered, when I was in this relationship with the mother of my daughter, and it was for 11 years. And towards the end, we weren't sleeping together, but we stayed together because we still loved each other, and of course, we wanted to parent our daughter. But I seriously resented the agency within me that even though I wasn't having sex with my partner, I still couldn't feel free enough to go out and do it with anybody else. I still had this binding to her, and I was caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. We used to sleep in separate beds. This went on for a few years, and I suppose we were both, very traumatized by that, wasting our lives away until in the end we just had to leave one another. But we left each other on good terms, and we still hold the great respect, for each other to this day.
Yeah,
But when we encounter these agencies within us, it's kind of like, well, who is that? Is that the devil, or is that an angel? And if you look at it and you go, well, why am I feeling like so attached to this woman when she doesn't want to sleep with me? I don't. Well, I suppose we both grew old of each other, so we no longer find that attractive, and yet we can't do it somewhere else because we'd be living a lie. If we're still living under the same roof, then we'd be living a lie. And then when we came back and then your partner went, well, where have you been? Or, oh, you're acting a bit funny, or you're late. Then you got to start lying. Do you want to lie? I don't personally ever want to lie. And that's
no,
why I'm explicitly honest. I don't want to carry the
exactly.
weight of lying. And so therefore,
You should be.
I tell the truth. So because I didn't want to lie and quite compromise my integrity, I would compromise my integrity on another level of not doing what I wanted to do, not doing what my heart wanted to do. You see, my heart wanted to be with other women, but my conscience wouldn't allow me to do that, and my integrity wouldn't allow me to do that. And even when I separated from this woman in the end, for about 3 or 4 years, when I used to go out to nightclubs and that, I still felt a certain guilt meeting new girls. And new girls always used to get the aura that I'm married. And they used to say to me, where's your wedding ring? Because my aura was like, I'm still married and I'm just after a bit on the side. They could sense that. And it took me
Mm,
3 or 4 years to eradicate that, Andre.
yeah. Mm,
That's powerful shit.
yeah.
And so this guilt,
Interesting.
this conscience is very, very powerful. Now, why is it so powerful? Because it's an evolutionary thing.
Yeah.
Because you see, love. If we look at love, where did love come from? How did love come about? Well, it's obviously an evolutionary tool because in the beginning, it's not just like squirrels. You see, female squirrels will mate with several male squirrels, whoever's around at the time, and not one single male sticks around to provide for the family. The female does it entirely on her own. Now, with human beings, because that's a very, very weak position for a human being to be in, they needed the partners to stay around. So evolution came up with this genius thing called love. And I wouldn't think that conscience came first. No, love came first. It was this bonding thing that made the male come back to the female and made the male bond to the children and want to rear them together. You see? So obviously there's humble beginnings, and even it's humble beginnings now because we're still not committed. We still can't commit to it, but we have it. But what happened in the interim, in the evolution, because love wasn't that powerful, Andre, then the cosmos developed another agency within the human being, and that was the conscience. And the conscience, hopefully, for fuck's sake, what we're going to have to do with these human beings, we can't bond them together with love. Being the most powerful force in the cosmos, apparently, isn't enough to bond them together. So let's give them the guilt trip. Let's see if that bonds them together. But no, it doesn't bond them together, because the most powerful thing in the cosmos is the act of procreation. That is what's the most powerful, and that is what supersedes everything.
Yeah.
So you look at these agencies of the human being, and you have to bring yourself to task with them, and you have to know. And then, of course, when you're looking at all this stuff, you have to question free will. So many intellectuals absolutely claim that there's no free will, and in many, many respects, there doesn't appear to be. And so, well, we don't even have the free will to stay with our partners, even if we wanted to. Because there's so many wedges that are being driven between us, coming, in the variety of other partners, circumstances and attitudes and beliefs and, all this different sort of stuff. There's a whole myriad of stuff which is just designed to destroy the bonding of human relationships.
Yeah. Within that quote, we derive this from demonic energies, and that's exactly what they could be attributed to, like girls on a party or something, that try to seduce you into breaking with the partnership as well.
Well, yeah, you could say demonic energies, but you'd be buying into the hypnosis and indoctrination of religion. Um, because at the end of the day, when you look back into the Garden of Eden, human beings are human beings, and they were born. You see the stupidity of it in the Garden of Eden. It states that Adam and Eve didn't even know they were naked until they ate from the forbidden fruit. So
Yeah.
if they didn't know they were naked, they didn't know that they had cock and pussy. So they obviously didn't know what to do with them. So they could have never have procreated if God had his own way by keeping them ignorant like fucking mannequins. It was with the advent of Satan, the serpent, telling them, "Hey, by the way, you've got cock and pussy. Do you want to use it?" That motherfucker, he don't want you to use it. And so if you don't use it, you're not going to procreate. And so you're both going to die, and that's going to be the end of the human race. So this stupid fucking Bible, which is a piece of shit from beginning to end. I want to hear Jordan Peterson talking about shit like that.
But daemon could, like from demonic, could also be seen as from the Greek perspective, where it's a daemon.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Damon.
That
So
could be both good and evil.
yes, but that's a whole different
Or
connotation to
jinn,
demon. You
jinn
see,
also from the Muslim religion
your
is
jinn,
jinn.
yeah. Well, the jinn
Yeah.
is evil, the demon is evil, but Damon isn't evil. Damon
There,
is just
there's
an agency.
actually jinns that are in between as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and also good jinns as well. Yeah,
Right. Okay. Well, I haven't heard about any of those, and so that would be interesting for me to look into
yeah,
that, because I've only ever
yeah.
heard
You
about
do that.
the evil one being the jinn. So therefore, then, jinn must just mean spirit.
Yeah,
It can be good, it can be bad, it can be indifferent.
yeah. Much like in the Greek religion,
As in what?
or in the like ancient Greece, like where the daemon.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you see, with these thinkers like, Aristotle, Plato, and the likes, Socrates, they were looking at what was going on in their minds, and they evidently had internal monologues or dialogues.
yeah,
I would think that they most certainly had to have internal dialogue to be able to question things. Because if you've only got a monologue, then you've only got one voice in your head telling you to do shit. Well, you've got nothing to contest that. That's why
mm,
it is imperative that the contester, Satan, comes along to get you to question what you're doing. Because if you've
yeah.
just got one voice in your head, I'm going to go and rape that woman, I'm going to go and murder that person, well, you've got to have an agency who says, hey, do you think that's a good idea? So that's where Satan comes along, isn't it? Satan
Yeah,
just means in the Old Testament, the contester. It
yeah,
was just another voice. It was just another opinion. That's all it was. And so, in my estimation, Satan is the good guy. Yahweh is the bad guy. Yahweh wanted to keep everybody dumb as fuck under his jurisdiction and his imprisonment. Satan set us free
mm.
and supposedly gave us free will. But you see, when we've got these agencies of these girls coming, well, they're just doing what their body's telling them to do. They're not probably even thinking about it in their minds, unless they're a power seeking girl, that enjoys taking another man's woman, or wants to take you because you got money or something like. There's lots of nefarious women, of course, but if a woman
Yeah,
is just operating on her biology, then she just wants to fuck you. And she's not really thinking about your girlfriend. She doesn't really fucking. She's not giving it two thoughts, to be fair. So it can't really be deemed as evil.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's based on what context it's put
Yeah,
in. It could be also said to be the lower base instinct and so on. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
So
it is supposed to be the lower based instinct, but Andre, it's the most powerful one within humanity. So I
yeah,
would think it's the highest based instinct. You
mm,
see, it's the only thing that enables us to continue to be a human race. If we
yeah.
didn't have this, if we consider that the sexual drive, like Buddhists, oh, don't ejaculate, store up your semen. Well, where's that going to get the human race? Fucking nowhere. So it's completely stupid, as far as
But
the
but
concept.
um, but I think it's good in a way because you don't want to procreate with somebody that are defect. You know, it
Right,
will
someone with
bring
defect.
about good children, so to
Yeah,
speak.
but only invalids mate with invalids, really, unless there's a person with a psychological problem. I once knew a person who was perfectly able-bodied. He was fucking a wheelchair-bound invalid, and I'm like, there's something very, very deep, psychological, and sinister going on there. When he has to pick her up and out of a wheelchair, put her in a bed to fuck her, and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. People could say, oh, well, he just had a beautiful heart and he oversaw that, whatever. I can't get my head around that. Don't even want to
Mm,
try.
yeah.
But I find it perfectly acceptable if two people are invalids and they do it. That's perfectly reasonable. I can't see any psychological issues there,
But
Andre.
if we say you have tried a bunch of beautiful girls, have had a sex with them, you see a fat girl, wonder what that would be like. Just for
Yeah,
like that,
okay.
you know?
Yeah, fat girl's a fat girl.
Yeah.
It's not. She's not
Not
in.
very nice, but still maybe interesting in a
Yeah,
certain
so where do you
way.
draw the line? Is that what you're asking? Where do you draw the line? What if you see a girl with only one leg? Okay, like Heather Mills.
Yeah.
That worked for Paul McCartney. Okay, you've tried one with one leg. It's not the greatest when you've got them bent over. You've only got one fucking leg hanging down from the arse. I mean, I don't know how that would work. I don't know how it would work, mate. You can only have one leg wrapped around you when you're in the missionary position. So if you fuck a girl or guy with only one leg, well, fuck it. Try a guy without any arms. Let's try a guy. Let's see how that is. What sort of sickness is going on? I think there's
Yeah,
a level of
but
sick.
but society is sick, so in many ways, so it can easily go whatever direction people are manipulated into. You know, people
The
that
more
want to be dogs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Let's fuck a goat. Let's fuck a sheep. The more you
Yeah,
look into the human being, the more you just have to know that they are some fucked up fucking creatures. Don't tell me about their love and benevolence. I don't want to fucking hear it. I really don't.
yeah,
I'll only hear it is if you include their evil.
yeah.
Because then you'd be speaking truth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Both parts must be there, both the sinner and the saint, so to
Yeah.
speak.
See, the other thing about letting go, Andre, is that if somebody does you a bad deed, if someone crosses you, and you have this vengeance going on, that will eat you alive.
Mm.
That it is really, really important that we let go any pain, a notion of revenge uh, against people who have perpetrated transgressions against us. Because if you carry the weight of all the people that stole from you, lied to you, deceived you, and this, that, and the other, man, you'd be embittered through and through. And I don't know whether to some degree I'm carrying the weight of that, and that I am. But I feel at peace in my body and at my heart. It's just that I am a psychological thinker, and I remember things. But
Yeah,
I can honestly say that the people that have stole from me and lied to me, I've let them go. But I'll
yeah,
still have rants which appear to be embittered
yeah.
about people that do this. My level
So
of
residue might be left of it, you
well,
know?
I think the bone of contention, to be fair, is the hypocrisy. I don't like hypocrisy. I will
No,
accept you, Andre, if you tell me, all the evil things that you think about, and I'll go, well, I can get my head around that,
yeah,
because everybody has evil thoughts. I'm not listening to anybody that says they don't.
no,
Like all people, Alexander Solzhenitsyn and fucking Frankel, the guy that was in the concentration camps in Germany, all these people, they say that evil runs through the heart of every man and woman because when they
yeah,
have been in situations, they've fucking seen it.
yeah,
And there's no exception. Even with themselves,
exactly.
there's no exception.
Whatever person you are, you are capable of doing exactly all the kind of stuff that any other person have done, just with the right setting and circumstances, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah. All that needs to change is certain life circumstances, and all of a sudden, for instance, there was a movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It was called Trading Places in the 80s. And Dan Aykroyd was a big, high flying businessman, and Eddie Murphy was this bum on the street sitting in the doorway. And uh, some big high flying Wall Street boys had a bet that, or wouldn't it be fun if we changed around these two people? And so Eddie Murphy, the bum, all of a sudden he was given this position of this Wall Street high flyer, and the high flyer was ended up with all his credit cards cancelled, and nobody wanted to know him. He was completely cancelled, and he ended up sitting in the doorway. It's a brilliant movie to see how
Hmm.
they both both interacted in circumstances. And the moral of the story is, don't be judging a person in the doorway because you think, the sun shines out your fucking arse because you was born with a silver spoon in it, or you were born with a heightened level of intelligence. No, because you could very, very easily be there, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is why in my life I've put myself to task, and I've actually done things like this, sleeping rough and sleeping in the doorways of the tube stations in the heart of winter on cardboard boxes, freezing my bollocks off all night long. Not sleeping because it's too cold to sleep, but with all your coats on and your triple hats on, and you've got your bag for a pillow, and you've got boxes underneath, and you've got boxes on top. You found boxes in doorways, and you've got newspapers out the bins and all this sort of stuff. I've done that, Andre.
Mm.
And I've gone without food because I never had any money, and I had to go to charities, soup kitchens. I was in soup kitchens, man. I'm sitting down
Mm.
with people that stunk and all different sorts of mentally retarded people. I wanted to know
Mm.
what it was like to be down there and do that, and
Yeah.
see if it's possible to get out of it with a little bit of design. And
Mm.
you could, because there are places where you can go to sleep and to eat. They are available if you seek them out,
Mm.
You don't have to
Interesting.
sit in a fucking freezing cold doorway with your dog and a paper cup. You don't have to do that.
Mm. Next line on page 357. By the way, that's very interesting that you actually did that. Yeah.
Yeah. I did this series. I made videos of it, and it's called Down and Out in London.
Really?
And when I was walking around the street, because I was on that low level, I was an opportunist. So I found a place where I could sleep in a park. It was an old oak tree which had fallen down, hundreds of years old, and it was hollow, and it was about 10 feet long, and it was just narrow enough to fit in. And I thought, well, if it really starts pissing it down and I can't find anywhere dry, I'm going to go and sleep in that. Then I'm walking
Mm.
down the road, and outside of a terraced house, there was a pile of boxes and a single mattress. And I said to myself, well, if I can't find anywhere comfortable, I'm coming back to sleep there that night.
Mm.
And so that night, I fucking did end up going back there. I was sleeping in the doorway. I was thinking like, oh fuck it, I'll do it really rough. And then I thought, well, fucking hell, it's not about really doing it rough. You can be resourceful. There's a mattress up there. Go and fucking sleep on the mattress. So I went and slept on the fucking mattress outside somebody's house.
Mm.
Unbelievable stuff. By the bins. It's by dustbins. A mattress by the dustbins. Dirty old fucking mattress. And
Yeah.
I just put a cardboard box on it and fucking dobbed down and put a cardboard box over the top of me.
Mm.
And then in the daytime, I went down to queue outside the soup kitchens with like 30 or 40 other people.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, page 357. If we could only achieve one goal on our spiritual journey, then gaining the ability to let go of negative energy would add years to our lives and increase the quality of each day lived. Letting go of unproductive memories, desires, bitterness, jealousy, hatred, envy, embracement, guilt, shame, etc., vastly increases our facility to create our subjective Garden of Eden.
So if you get rid of your shame, your guilt, your hate, and all this sort of thing, well, what happens? You purify your mind. You
Yeah,
metaphorically create the naivety of the Garden of Eden. You
yeah,
go back to this level of naivety where you weren't conscious of sin.
yeah. So all the three quotings right now has been about letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is a really, like you are saying, it's is really the one of the best things to have in the reservoir, so
Yeah,
to
your
speak.
arsenal
Yeah,
of weaponry
yeah,
to protect yourselves. You know, it's not a weaponry to hurt anyone with. It's to
yeah,
protect yourself against all of these nefarious entities of shame and guilt and hate and all the rest of it. You know,
yeah,
if you have the power to let go of any transgressions against you, then you free yourself up. Because if you don't let go, whatever they have done, they continue to do it every single day. When you remember it and you dwell on it and you create free radicals and hate within
yeah,
yourself. Because if you're hating somebody else, then who's feeling that hate? You are. Whose
yeah,
body's been destroyed as a result of it? Yours. So
yeah,
therefore, we have to let go of all these things. And you know, people will have a big problem with me because they would see that I'm exceedingly controversial. And even though I say these things and I know exactly how they work, they would think that I'm not doing it. But they
mm,
can't see into my core. They don't know the stillness of my heart. All they hear is me when I'm speaking on videos. And when I'm speaking
yeah,
on videos, I am shaking people to the core, hopefully to get them to think about certain things. And the videos aren't supposed to be a reflection of me, my life, and my experience. It's not like I'm fucking entertaining you fools out there. I'm giving you the opportunity to grow and evolve. That's what I'm doing. You know, but people that just look on me, oh, I only come to your videos for entertainment. Well, that's because you're a fucking idiot asshole, then, isn't it?
yeah.
Because if you
They're
can't see,
wasting their time
they're
if they are
fucking
doing
wasting
that.
their time. Exactly, because everything I say, people should be taking it on board and thinking about that. Is that me? Does that refer to me? Do I do that? Because at the end of the day, our lives are all about ourselves. And it doesn't matter whether you think you're motherfucking Teresa or not. What you're doing is for yourself. You love the acclaim. You love people thinking how wonderful and how giving you are. And the more they tell you how giving you are and how sacrificial you are, the more you sacrifice yourself because you're feeding on it like a frenzy. You know, there's
Yeah,
many people that speak horrendous things about Mother Teresa, by the way, and
mm,
Christopher Hitchens was one of them.
mm,
Called her a fucking Romanian gypsy motherfucker, amongst other things.
mm. The
So
next
to
line,
have those powers, Andre,
yeah,
then literally, if you have powers, then you literally have earned the right to carry the staff, you
yeah,
know? And you know what all this stuff means.
yeah. Next line here on 361. The forces of evil will always attack when they sense weakness or instability, favoring those who have become subject to emotional destabilization brought about by life's myriad misfortunes. These deeply unfavorable circumstances give rise to the potential for the most destructive chaos to ensue. Unless we are uncommonly strong, determined, and confident, we will suffer immensely when encountering these dark forces.
Yes, now we're talking. You see, oh goodness me, you know what can you say? Look, because I've lived this life, and because I am everything that's written in that book. Then I wrote the book, hopefully people would, gain some of the strength from between those pages. But like I say, you're the only person that's come forward to speak about it, and I've sold 80 copies so far. And
Yeah.
probably there's barely a single person that's even finished it. Having been bought it, several months. Like yourself, you're halfway through it. You've got different interests, different things, and people are captivated by so many different things. Their attention is grasped and governed by so many different energy forms out there. And again, there's a myriad reason. Um, and what I'm saying is that they have been captured. And I don't know how many of them have really got their priorities right. Lots of people are easily distracted. How many people could be reading my book but are drawn into Twitter? Or to X, and they
Yeah.
find themselves, whoops, 3 hours has gone by, and they've been click, 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 click. And what really have they learned? About themselves. They would think they'd be learning about the world. Oh, Elon Musk said this, and Jordan Peterson said that, and Kamala said this. Who gives a fuck what they say?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
what do you feel? What are you learning? How are you growing?
Yeah. It's putting the time and effort in as well, don't going for the fast dopamine kicks and so on. And you will get the really more valuable kicks out of reading a book like this, or doing cold showers, doing yoga. And yeah, I mean, if if they are just sitting by looking at your videos for entertainment, then they haven't even come to the point to look, how can I grow,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it's sad to say, but they're idiots. So, viewers, the ones of you that think that you're tuning into my channel for entertainment, you're an idiot. Because it's like picking up the Bible and uh, reading it because you think you ought to. You're reading it for the wrong fucking reason. You've got to
Yeah,
read it to extract from it the meaning, and you've got to find the meaning within your heart, soul, and body. And if you can't, if you're just picking it up and murmuring a few words to relieve your guilt, then you're a fucking idiot.
yeah.
And sadly, that
But
constitutes about 95% of the world, by the way.
yeah, but this is an important line, because there, when you're on a path somewhere, you might get something dangling in front of you by the devil, just
Yeah.
to talk symbolically, so
Yeah.
to speak. And you can deviate from the path if you are not aware. And
Exactly. So what's being dangled by the devil? People's mobile phones, Twitter, X, fucking Facebook, and all the rest of that shit. The devil is absolutely, most certainly, within that stuff, because it is distraction. It is taking you away from you. And at the
yeah,
end of the day, there's only one thing that's going on in this world here. And if there is a reason for it, then it seems that it's about personal evolution, to evolve. Because if we just go through this life experience and we don't learn anything, can you imagine, standing before God, before the pearly gates, and God saying, okay, so how have you evolved? And you go, evolve? Yeah, how have you bettered yourself? Uh, I went to college. Oh no, that's not bettering yourself. That's just learning a few things from a few textbooks. Have you bettered yourself? Um, and well, no, sorry, you're not coming in. Because if you can't speak about having a deep relationship with your vicery, with your soul, with your heart, with your spirit, and riding through all of these sacrifices, coming out a more learned and better person, able not to make the same mistakes again or to do whatever you did before, then you've not learned, you've not benefited, have you? So therefore, you need to go back.
Yeah, just programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you look at the world, and honestly, I look at all these intellectuals going around today, and all I see is them selling their souls to Mephistopheles, because they're all so eloquent, talking about free will, and talking about the biblical corpus, and Jonah, and they're all sitting around tables and talking about this shit when the world's going to fucking pot. We've got liars, manipulators, and evil demons manipulating the fucking world, and they're not talking about that. They're not even alluding to it in lots of respects. They're just lining their own fucking nefarious pockets, and they make me sick to the core.
Yeah.
Um, you know, when are people going to really start talking about stuff? Well, people like Alex Jones, people like David Icke, and of course they get rode out of town, they get cancelled by every possible conceivable avenue. They have to set up their own fucking channels at their own expense to do this. And invariably, people don't even want to fund them to do it. And so, if the likes of Alex Jones and David Icke's channels go down eventually because the powers that be took them down, then the human race has gone down. That's it. They are the last fucking vestige of salvation for the human race. The people that have got bollocks to actually say what they say in face of all adversity. It's like Tommy Robinson. Did you know about Tommy Robinson?
Yeah, he is a British guy. Yeah.
Yeah, British guy
He's
that's speaking
yeah.
about the nefarious facets of Islam. He's saying, look, the reason why I do this because I know it's absolutely right to do it, and my daughter and my mother have to live in this world, and your daughters and your mother are going to have to live in this world as well, and everybody should be doing this. Everybody should know about it, and ultimately, I may even die doing this. If I go in prison, like he's very likely to go in prison, he's going to say that there's going to be many of these swarthy folk that are going to try and kill him. Because it's in their book that they have to do it. So when you've got a group of people who are so indoctrinated by evil text that they proclaim comes from a benevolent God, and it's about murder, Tommy doesn't stand a fucking chance. And the prison system doesn't give a fuck about Tommy in there, and they almost want him to die, and that's why they always put him in cells with these swarthy folk until he gets beat the fuck up and all this stuff. So honestly, it's a heinous world. It's a heinous world. And, people need to support greatly these people who have bollocks, who have balls, who are standing up for your children, you lazy, despicable, heinous creatures. Yes. People really need to start talking about it. But the thing is, I'll give due to Jordan Peterson at this moment in time, because Jordan Peterson has been interviewing Tommy Robinson, because he's got a massive platform, and what he's doing, Jordan Peterson is anti-state. Of course, in its present state, because it's very, very nefarious, and these intellectuals can see how it's going. And so they are doing something as much as they can without being cancelled. So obviously they have to be careful, because if they go all out, David then their viewership will absolutely diminish into barely nothing relatively. So with people with massive platforms of millions, they've got to box a little bit clever at this moment in time. They've got to say what they can only say on certain platforms, and say what they can't say on certain platforms on other platforms, like Rumble and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more people saying it. And I'm doing it in my own little way, and I'm calling out the backboneless, and I'm calling out the idiots, and people might not like my attitude and my way of doing things, but I do things in my own way, and I can uh, I can appeal to a certain facet of the market, and the ones I'm appealing to, I'm sure, are the ones who are like me, the ones that are strong and can and could make a difference. The ones that are shying away and don't like what I say are the backboneless fucking cretins that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but when we look at this whole situation with the migrants coming and so on, I mean,
Yeah,
the
Andre, don't mention that word again. That's
okay, I
enough to get
didn't.
this
So,
video
sorry,
blocked.
I
Yep.
really didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. You can't say
So,
that. You can't say these people beginning with M and ending with S. You can't say that. You can't say anything about that. It's like, look, the COVID days. You couldn't say nothing. You couldn't even mention vaccine in the same video
yeah.
as fake. You just couldn't do it, even if it was a completely different concept. Even if you was talking about fake Christians and then you said vaccine, like an hour later, the video would go down because the algorithms will
Yeah.
put those two together and they'll go, no, we're not having that.
Okay. I didn't know that. Now I know it. I
Mm.
will remember it, and I will just
So that's
use
why I'm
another
always speaking
word.
in code. I'm always saying these swarthy folk.
Yeah.
Swarthy is a
Cuddly
terminology
boys,
we
maybe.
use for a certain complexion. Do you know? Do you understand that? Did you know that?
No, no.
Yeah, so swarthy. When people are swarthy, it means that they've got some sort of, complexion, difference,
Mm,
a brownish complexion. So that's
mm,
why I'm speaking about that.
mm. Yeah. So they are all a part of the plan in a way. To divide and conquer,
Absolutely.
and they will not even be the winners at the end.
Who's
Uh,
they?
the suave or the cuddly boys
No,
or
they won't. They're just being used. They're being
the
used by people that want to break down the majority. You see, the majority in the Western world are Christian oriented. And so the powers that be want to diminish all religions. And so we know who they are. We can't say
yeah
that word either. And so what they're doing is they're thinking, okay, look, it's like mafia groups. If you've got three mafia groups in one city, well, the easiest thing to any of them to do is to tell one group that the other group is intending to whack their boss. And then
mm,
that group gets really, really paranoid. They start, looking at this other group, and maybe they'll go to whack their boss, and there'll be a feud between them two. One of them will end up getting killed, and then this group has only got one to contend with, right?
mm,
So that's what they're doing. It says my battery is running low here, but anyway, we've not got that long left. It just tells me
yep
this, and I don't know why. It tells me this, but let's see if it goes down. If it goes down, it goes down. But
yep.
let's continue.
Let's take one on other line here on page 362. You know when the devil is present in your vicinity, when you are being offered a way out of your suffering by ending your life. One of the main preventatives from taking that advice is that intuitively you don't trust where that advice is coming from. And if you did take it, you distrust where would end if you did, where you would end up if you
Where
did.
you end up, yes. So what I'm saying is like, at some stages in our lives, sometimes for people who've really lived, we'll have an offer made by what appears to be the devil. This
Yeah,
voice in your head, this very, very sinister, evil voice, which tells you that if you don't like the level of suffering that you're experiencing, then you can exit that.
yeah,
How do you exit that? Well, you kill yourself, right?
yeah.
So, when people have had, uh, suicidal thoughts. I wouldn't say I never had suicidal thoughts. I had the offer of
Yeah.
ending it, and coming from what I assumed was the devil. An entity which was thick in the air, which hung over me for a whole month before I combated it and sent it packing. And I did this in 5 hours of meditation every single day, and reading all positive stuff like Buddhism and this, that, and the other, and not listening to these negative energies. This, of course, is when I was within a very, very negative environment, when everybody
Mm.
around me, Andre, were scoundrels and murderers and very violent people. Hell on earth. Literally, these places are hell on earth.
Mm.
And so, yes, that is the ground and the territory for evil to lurk within. There is
Yeah.
evil within the vast majority of these people, and so evil is permeating within the walls of these establishments.
Yeah.
And so I was compromised. I was heavily compromised, but through because I'd met the devil before on one occasion, I knew what he felt like. I knew what it was like, and I knew what I had to do to relinquish or escape the clutches of that very, very evil negative force. And So when you made the offer, you can end it here. It's kind of like, I don't trust you, you evil motherfucker, because
Mm.
I don't know where I'm going to go when I do end it.
Yeah.
And
That's a good thing to keep in
Catholic,
mind. Yeah.
yeah, the Catholics say that for those who commit suicide will end up in purgatory forever.
Yeah, because you also write afterwards. It could very well be the case of out of the fire and into the frying pan.
Yeah,
Yeah, literally the fiery Gehenna.
yeah,
And I am not strained to suicidal thoughts and so on. I have had
right.
that in the past, and I have gone through it recently in a way, because I sway between being uh, in a very good state and in a less good state, because I have my vertigo. It's debilitating. And so I have different things here that I struggling with at the same time. Then again, I'm also blessed, because I have people around me that we can throw around ideas like that,
Mhm.
so the important thing is to know that go towards life and light, you know
Yeah,
when I'm at a certain stage, I don't really, and then I'm just at another place, and when I'm at my lower, yeah, I'm just at my lower, I'm it's kind of desperation, and then I look upon myself again, and I see that I have a very strong mind, and that is what is strange, because then there's a certain weakness also within the strong mind, so to speak.
yeah,
And I have also been prone to like certain kind of individuals that have taken their life, because I think it's interesting how they had planned it to be a heroic death, or like a artist death or something like that,
right.
and then because I have recognized that within myself, that I have that certain part, then I think, this is a dangerous ground to be in,
Yeah,
and also me having certain uh, musicians that I like that ended their life, and like literature or stuff like that. I'm drawn to that because yeah, it's also a way to pretend that you are strong while you're actually not very strong in a certain way when if one takes their life, you know,
Yeah.
because you're sensitive to your own thoughts,
Hmm.
and you are emotionally weak if that is the case, you know.
Yeah.
So one can always cope around it and say it's something else, but
And
yeah,
I think one of the reasons that many people actually do take their lives is because they don't have a reason to be here. They don't have anybody that they love enough to want to stay to protect. Um, if they feel in such a level of despair um, that they couldn't hang around for the sake of somebody else, then I suppose their inner turmoil must be really, really bad. The mother of myself and three other very young babies. What difficult to comprehend what she could have been feeling to leave four babies, the oldest one being 6 years old, the youngest being one, and we'll never know what goes through people's minds. Um, Whether they could have ever managed to come out of it, you know.
yeah,
Uh, and so it's a very, very difficult thing. But I said to one of the viewers, one of my friends, in the comments, um, because we're speaking about the prison planet, and this is the trap. This is
yeah,
the demiurge's trap,
yeah,
and it's a loosh factory. It's just sucking on our loosh, you know. And I said, yeah, well, we're obviously all cosmic criminals or cosmic lawbreakers. If that is true, well, look, you know, the whole demiurge thing is that he trapped souls, and then they weren't guilty of anything. They were just human beings, and then they were trapped by the demiurge. If you read the Gnostics, you know it's one of those mythological things that's very difficult
yeah,
to find any rationale with. But that's what they say. But if you look at it, if this is a prison planet, then if it's a prison planet, then we've been sent here by someone something. And so if we've been sent here, we must have done something. So we're all cosmic lawbreakers. And so it appears that the sentence that we were given is indicated by the amount of years we live. Every year is punishment. People who commit suicide, they have less of a sentence. Or people that die being murdered or accidents, they have less a sentence than the people that live longer. The people that live
yeah,
longer, they've got to suffer more. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would also be like a way to put it to cope it with the other way around, but it still just becomes a belief system in something. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, uh, belief system. So, if we look at the Gnostics, then our souls were created by a benevolent force, but a weak one. The
yeah,
demiurge was a malevolent force and a strong one. So the malevolent one captured the souls that the benevolent one made, and is feeding on our negative energy. Is torturing us from the cradle to the grave and feeding on this negative energy. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that there's a huge cosmos out there, all different dimensions and paradigms, and there are criminals. It's pretty well the similar structure as a human being, as above, so below. So you've got cosmic entities doing evil as well, and so they're captured and they're put on a planet. We've all fucking seen things like Star Wars and Darth Vader and all this fucking shit. We're told that there's evil out there and all these fucking galaxies and everything, and so it could be that. It could
Yeah.
be that we were all Darth Vaders, or of something, or maybe we weren't Darth Vaders. Maybe we were political dissidents in other galaxies, and we were trying to fight against the evil. And then they've put us into this evil loose trap. There's lots of
Mm.
stories that could be wrote about this, and doubtless many have
Yeah.
been. Um, uh, but yeah, it's just fascinating to look at all this stuff and to question. God, man, how is it that we have had these minds that can do this?
Mm.
How can we invent all these worlds? We must be God. On some level, we must be God, Andre, because
Mm.
there's nothing we can't think about, seemingly.
Yeah. On the
Okay, if the battery lasts, which it looks like it might,
Yeah.
we've got 10 more minutes before we're up to 2 hours. So we'll
Yeah.
just finish off with.
The next line comes here on the same page, 362. How did I slay the beast? By knowing about how evil feels and the maneuvers, by having experience with some of the tactics deployed in such encounters, by clinging fast to the glimmer of light, beaconing me out of the darkness, by digging in deep and closing down any thoughts that would feed the ravenous monster at my throat, by giving nothing to the beast. Fear is its fodder. We need to banish any doubt of success over the dark forces and remain relentlessly on course towards the light, never letting up for a second day and a night.
Yes. So when we are compromised by evil, we have to focus 1000% on the light, on the glimmer
Yeah,
of light within this darkness. We're heading for the light. We are absolutely immersed in darkness, but we know there's a light, even if we can't see it. Well, then we know there's a light out there because we've experienced it before, and we're heading for that.
yeah,
We're heading for that. We're heading for that. We're imagining that. We're generating it, we're creating it, we're denying the evil, we're not engaging with the evil, we're not partaking, we're not entering into a dialogue with the evil, nothing. And so we are denying it. We are one track mind with our focus on recovery.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it needs a great deal of strength.
Yeah, uh, then I look upon that as well. This morning I did 35 minutes of yoga. I did 35 minutes of meditation. I had a cold shower for 12 minutes on the coldest in my shower, and all those parts makes the mind resilient as well, you know. And then
Hmm.
later today I will go to the gym as well, so I have all those positive things that if I didn't have all the good things there, what
Yes,
a much harder life it would be, you know. But
yes,
I have built up such a strength through even harder periods that I still just sustain myself, but it's interesting because the attacks of a darker force would be there because it sees that I'm going upwards towards the light and it doesn't like that, you know. So it try to because it see the potential for me being even greater, you know.
yeah. Well, they say that, when you are on the spiritual path, you're always going to be compromised by dark forces.
Yeah,
And I suppose the more spiritual we become, the greater the dark forces. In the whole scenario with Jesus in the desert, being offered the compromise from Satan. Yeah. Um, you know. Uh, But you see, if you look at the metaphor of that, because of course it's all metaphor.
Yeah, yeah,
So when
but
these
it's
people,
good metaphors, I think.
yeah, when people go into the desert, they're not going into a fucking desert. Because if you ask yourself, people always say, oh, Jesus went into the desert, and Plato went over to Egypt and went into the desert 40 days and 40 nights. And all these people, they seem to go on this pilgrimage to the desert. No, they didn't go in no fucking desert. What they went into was into isolation and into fasting. Because you can't just go out into a desert and not have any water or shelter there, because you freeze your bollocks off. You probably get eaten or consumed by wild animals and bugs. You die of thirst. So you go into isolation with plenty of water and a moderate level of comfort whereby you can sleep. So you meditate, you fast, and you experience how your mind and body is when you have fasted for 40 days, because many devils are going to come and they're going to tell you, that you want comfort and you need food and you need sex and you need company, you need all these things, being compromised when your objective is to go into this solitude, to find your deep inner self, but many things want to prevent you from finding it. You see, that's the devil. That's the
Yeah,
negative energy. It's all
yeah.
metaphor.
Yeah, absolutely. Then again, metaphor, and still there is a word, world behind this world. What I think, that is metaphysical. So,
Mm.
uh, if we cut it down to the one's own experience, again, it seems like it is like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it seems then, with all these angels and demons, that they're all a manifestation of consciousness, like
Mm.
everything else is. Everything is on different levels and degrees of solidity and reality,
Yeah.
and consciousness. And we can have all different sorts of experiences within the realms of consciousness, which we go here, we go there, we can go into the ecstatic and we can have the terrifying. There's everything here that
Yeah.
we can experience. We can experience levels of lunacy and paranoia and being subject to being beguiled and deceived, i.e., Christians. I mean, what veracity? Where is the veracity, for God's sake, in the so called outside world? It isn't there. But if you
Mm.
look inside, you'll find your own devil and your own God. You don't need to read about it in stupid books. And that's what Jesus said.
Yeah.
Whenever you pray, you don't go to a temple or a mosque. You go inside your own mosque. You meditate. And that's it.
Mm.
Yeah, so, well, we've covered some good shit today, again,
Yeah.
Andre. And,
Yeah, I think it was a really great conversation. It was also nice to do it like a bit earlier as well.
earlier, yeah, it was weird for you. You caught me off guard because, I was expecting you to say, "Okay, I'll see you later," and then I'm ready in 5 minutes. It's like, holy Moses! Um, but yeah, I suppose it matters, really, does it? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. We finished on a good point, actually. The
Yeah.
manifestation of evil, and because where do you go from that?
Yeah.
Poof, and so we had a good build up throughout these 2 hours, and
Absolutely.
I don't know how I'm going to title this video. I don't know what to say to grab the attention of people whose attention you just can't grab. You know, because this information is very, very valuable for all soulful human beings, all
Yeah.
intelligent human beings. But then, of course, we enter into the truism. Well, the vast majority of my viewers are obviously not intelligent. They're not soulful. They're just these automaton without internal monologues or spirits, and fuck knows what they're doing here. But they hang around, and as much as I say that, these videos are very insightful, they won't fucking watch them. Don't have the constitution, don't have the spirit. And then I say, well, you might want to buy the book. Never buy the book. So I ask myself, well, what the fuck do you guys want then? What the fuck are you on my channel for? If I was on someone's channel, Andre, and they're talking about their book in their life, in all the fucking videos that they make, and you're watching all of them, and you don't want to buy the book, what the fuck is going on with you? That's
Yeah.
the thing. What the fuck is going on with these tards?
Yeah. I just don't get it. It's like I lived in a family home when I was in my upper teen year. And there was a man who worked there who was had competed. He was a strong man and so on. And he got me away to the gym and so on. Other people, teenagers, got the offer as well, but they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because they they don't think, they are lazy, they are absolutely idiots. If you don't take that opportunity that anybody would pay a lot of money for, getting into shape and get a good body, then you're a fucking idiot right off the bat.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, there's so many unrealized benefits of being in
Yeah,
great shape. There is a whole myriad of reasons why people should do it, and it's not just about the body and vanity and all this sort of thing. It's a soul journey. When
yeah,
you are optimally fit, you are absolutely connected with the cosmos,
yeah,
as you are supposed to be, as the cosmos designed you to be. And all of these degenerates out there that just don't do any work and they don't push their body. They don't ever realize that. They never realize what it is to be a real human being. And
no,
that's just it. That's just it. You know, and again, that they think that they were fully fledged human beings. If they're office bods and if they do this and if they do that. No, frankly, look, people do great things. People do brilliant things. McCartney and Lennon, they did brilliant things. They weren't renowned ever to going to the gym. They had normal bodies all their lives and they
yeah,
did what they did. But in spite of that, they didn't really know what it was to be a human being. Because when your body's been in under absolute maximum duress, when you literally could feel like you're going to die of a heart attack, you know you're living.
yeah,
And anybody that hasn't done that, it's like anybody that hasn't done, serious entheogens. You don't know what's out there. You don't know
yeah,
what you are. You don't know what you are.
no,
Anybody that isn't proficient in very deep meditation, you don't know what you are. And there's so many realms where you can just say, you don't know what you are.
yeah,
If you haven't been confronted with a situation of life and death, you don't know what you are.
yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't know what goes through your mind. You don't know what goes through your body. You don't know all the implications and ramifications of these things. You don't know what you're going to turn out like confronted with that. There's so many things
Yeah,
you don't know about yourselves. And so,
yeah,
this is why I'm very, very forceful about this. But, you know, if there's no free will, then the vast majority of people have come here not to experience that. Fuck knows what they're supposed to experience, being fat and being spotty or, being ignorant or, being submissive and being, there was one guy that I heard about recently. I think it was something to do with like hate speech. He was put in prison for like 20 months or something for just saying something about the swarthy folks' God. And people were saying, he served humanity for 45 years, driving a train day in and day out. I'm like, holy Moses. Well, I guess we need people like that. We need people to pack our chickens and make our jackets and fucking, bottle our beer and all that. Because without them, what the fuck would we do? If none of us realized human beings would want to do that. So we've got to have unrealized human beings working for the realized
Maybe,
one.
but if we still were just living outside in nature and on a farm, we could butcher our own meat. We could garden our own fruits and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So then we just would rely on a smaller community, which would be probably much better, because the society is a big lie that we buy into things that we absolutely not really need. The only thing we really can need is food and shelter, and then we have most of the other things. Just train and do other things,
Yeah, but
food and shelter and physical training.
yeah, but lots of people they need community. They
Yeah,
can't live on their own. So
but
when you
a closer knit community is where you stand each other much closer, because society is just make believe. We just are polite towards each other because that's
yeah,
how it is.
yeah, but I mean, I often talk in my videos about small communities of like 150 people, which is supposed to be the number of the greatest unity. Within these communities, you're all going to be related, so you're all family. You're all going to have your own purpose that serves the community, so you're going to have value. Um, you're all going to be respected because you've got your own particular quality. One's going to be a basket weaver, another one's going to be an arrow fletcher, another one's going to be a trapper, and you're all going to be highly reliant on everybody. But then when you see the communities get bigger into towns where we don't know each other, and people have got skills, well, the basket weaver just weaves baskets, not out of love, not out of any sense of community, just because he's got to put a roof over his head and feed himself. And so he becomes detached with everybody and indifferent to everybody. And then when you just do basket weaving all your life, then, well, you close down in many, many other realms. You can't hunt, you can't plant, you can't plow, you can't do all this stuff. You become a basket weaver when life becomes too easy. And, you cater for yourself by selling your baskets. And so then as societies progress into cities, then you work in a factory and then you don't even talk to the people next to you. You're just doing your job. And look how we become more and more insular, more and more
Yeah,
closed down, more and more restricted, more and
yeah,
more less able to fend for ourselves. And if we
yeah,
had a nuclear holocaust and all of a sudden we're back in the dark ages, well, everybody would die because we couldn't trap, we couldn't plow fields, we couldn't weave fucking baskets and all these different sorts of stuff. What can most people do? They can walk to a fucking office and shuffle papers and tap a few fucking keys on a computer. That's about all most people can do. They do mind-bendingly boring, insignificant jobs. Really, they're just a tiny, 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 tiny cog in a massive machine. And
yeah,
so yeah, we're all retrograding. Really, we're all retrograding.
yeah,
So on that note, then I suppose we'll wrap this up because that's another conversation on its own.
yeah.
So once
So
again, just hit me up whenever you're ready to go again, Andre.
yeah, probably pretty soon. So see you
Yeah,
in a couple of days, maybe.
yeah, okay, let's do
Yeah,
it. All right,
yeah.
see you soon.
You too.
Okay, cheers,
Bye.
man. Bye.